Brandon Glanton came out very aggressively and was landing the heavier shots. The left-hand side of Chris Billiam, the cheek area was swollen and reddened up. By the end of the fight, his face was bruised up. It looked like Brandon could possibly spring an upset. He said some very threatening things to Billiam Smith pre-fight. He's going to brain damage him, that he's going to leave his family weeping, that the ATMs and ambulances won't let him stand over him to celebrate his victory. But Brandon didn't back up his chat. But he made it a tough night for Billiam Smith. Billiam wanted to have a fight with Brandon, the shorter and squatter man. But that wasn't the tactics, and I don't know what Shane and Billiam did strategically to prepare for this fight. Because I tell you what, midway through the fight, Billiam Smith had to start moving because he was getting beaten up. And if the pattern of the fight continued, he would have probably got stopped. Not through him not being able to take the shots, but his face was busting up and he was just getting caught too much. And he had to start using the ring. I heard Spencer Oliver and the commentary team calling shots that Billiam Smith was not landing. And in my opinion, there wasn't much in the fight. It was pretty uneventful. The last third of the fight, not much clean work, not much good action. Billiam Smith, at times, did use the jab well, and his boxing was tidier. There was something wrong with the canvas where the logos on the canvas were leading to the fighters slipping all over the place. And the referee, as somebody in the chat said, had a napkin to clean up the blood, sweat, and excess water. They were talking about somebody's going to have to bring sandpaper and sand down the logos. Stop putting logos on the canvas. Yeah? Billiam Smith looked like he was over-exaggerating when he was showing out because of Brandon's misuse of his head. And he did use his head illegally at times. But it looked like Billiam wanted to show out to the referee to perhaps give him a bit more protection there. I don't think they took any points off Glanton. And Billiam won a decision. Brandon Glanton had some scrapping on his left knee. And the logos on the canvas, it seemed, was giving him all types of issues, keeping his balance. And then when Chris started to move more, then the fight became really tedious in terms of action because Brandon was struggling to close down the space now. Also, when Billiam fought a Coley, they blamed the Coley for the aesthetic of the ugly fight that it was. But what I pointed out at that time, and I'll point it out now, Billiam Smith is an ugly ass fighter, right? He's ugly to watch. He himself clinches a lot. He smothers his work. And if it sounds critical, or if you're a Billiam Smith fan and you think it's too hard, it wasn't a good watch like that, the fight, in all truth. But he won the decision. 116, 113, 116, 12, twice. Unanimous. Perhaps Chris Billiam Smith will be matched with the new British Cruiserweight champion, Viddal Riley, who outpointed CHEAVON CLARKE. Viddal, taller, rangier, went through the motions without looking as convincing as he may have wanted to. CHEAVON had issues with the canvas, it looked like. He could never get going. He got hurt in the 11th. Not really much to talk about, to be honest. It would be disrespectful to some of the technical chess matches to equate this fight as that. It looked like they were both waiting for each other to make mistakes. I think it was more on CHEAVON to make the fight. Because if it was going to be this you make a mistake counterpunch thing, that was always going to suit Viddal. I don't want to disrespect Viddal, he's from the ends. But he's got to find more passion in his boxing. He's trained by his old man, and his old man is obviously sending him out there to do a job, and that is working. And if they're content with that, they should keep doing what they're doing. But if you want people to mention you amongst the great cruiserweights, there's more work that needs to be done. The performances need to go up another level. Perhaps if they make the Billiam Smith fight, that would be a level up from CHEAVON CLARKE. Riley might go up another level. Who knows? Maybe that's what he needs. This is CHEAVON CLARKE's second loss on the bounce, but he looks like he's found his ceiling as a pro. Depends where he wants to go. There could be some interesting matchups for CHEAVON at 34. We'll have to see how much ambition he has left. But well done, Viddal Riley, becoming Cruiserweight Champion of Britain. Well done. 27 years of age, 13-0 with 7 inside the distance. Aaron's evading them attacks easy. That left hand to the body's been a really good punch. He's either jabbed or threw it as a hook to the body. He's came ready for this one. This is a big opportunity. It's going to be very hard for Liam to turn this one around. Oh, left hook to the body again. That left hook to the body's going to sit him down, you know. Is his nose bleeding? That left hook to the body's going to sit him down. Still a lot to fight for here. Liam fighting for his career, really. Fringe contender level, he's fighting for his career. Why did I think it was the 11th? Okay, it's the 12th from final. Smith is down. How much times did I say the left hook to the body? How many times? I said the left hook to the body is going to seat Liam. I told you. I told you that left hook. From early, I said that left hook to the body is going to seat Liam. From early. Okay. Smith showing some heart. McKenna still got a dodgy defense, to be honest. Right hand by McKenna. All right, they're both going hand for leather here, man. Great performance by Aaron McKenna. Even scored a knockdown. Beefy got washed. 119, 108, 118, 108, 117, 109. 2 losses on the bounce for Liam Smith. McKenna is now 21-0 with 10 inside the distance. This was his first test. On occasion, there was a little bit of switch hitting from McKenna. He gave Liam a few more looks than I expected, with movement, side-to-side movement, upper body movement, good hand speed, great punch variation, and his youth and size and ambition was just too much for Liam Smith, the veteran. Some 11, 12 years, Aaron Senior, and it very much looked like a young man's game out there. During the bout, we saw Chris Eubank enter the arena, and it's kind of took the shine off Aaron's excellent performance. I called that left hook to the body from the 3rd round, and it manifested in the 12th. I like to make a big deal of them things because, you know, when you get things right, you need to let people know. No announcements whether Smith will retire or keep fighting. But this is all about Aaron McKenna. He's ranked number 15 with the IBF. While that's not impressive by itself, being ranked number 15 in one sanctioning body, this is, in my opinion, a depleted middleweight division that hasn't performed for a few years now. And if he can carry on that trajectory that we saw there, there's definitely a future for him. I thought he was going to resort to the brawling style that I see from him and his brother Stevie, but he's very controlled, made great use of his height, reach, and that left hook to the body. Really good punch. Still needs to stop crouching to the height of his opponent, but maybe that's his thing, and maybe he doesn't need to change it. I missed the first 20 seconds. Sorry about that, people. Lyndon looked jittery when he threw that jab. He's entitled to be a bit jittery. The second fight didn't go good for him at all. He looks a bit shook about in his power. He does look a bit shook.
You can see Arthur's got respect and almost a fear of Yarde's power. He's staying away, waiting for him to make a mistake and pick him off. He's not going to win the fight that way. The puncher, you got to get him on his back foot, get him out of his comfort zone and hit back, not wait for him to make a mistake and pop him.
I think a combination of Yarde maybe got too relaxed in there, too confident, and Lyndon got over his nerves. The fight settled down by the middle rounds, and Lyndon began to fight fire with fire. Oh, big shot from Yarde, big shot from Lyndon. Now we got a fight. Oh, Anthony needs to tag that body. He can get my man out there with them body shots, man. But he's not setting himself. If Lyndon languishes on the rock, not much power on Anthony's shots, to be honest. Struggle now. It's a struggle. Oh, not much power in Anthony's shots, man. Woo! All to play for. All to play for. Slow motion replay. Yarde getting caught with some bombs. Oh, Lyndon lighting him up. Anthony landed a great right hand there in the slow-mo. It's a good fight. Round 9. Now, what's Lyndon got from ring center? Oh, he landed a good right hand. Good jabs from Lyndon. Spray coming off Yarde's head, you know. These guys are fighting at a clip, man. Hey, they've got Arthur in front. 77-75. AI judge. Yarde finished strong in the last 3, throwing some hurtful body punches, but Lyndon, his durability and resilience was on another level from the second fight and was landing his fair share of good shit himself. There was one moment where I saw Tunde in the camera shot and he had his hand over his mouth, not in a panic-stricken way, but in deep thought, like, how is this really going? Because it was going back and forth. The 11th was a bad round for Lyndon. It was a bad round. But he saw it through to the final bell. And it's the second fight on the bounce that Yarde hasn't got a stoppage. I'm not sure if that would be a concern if you're glass half full. Second fight is one in succession as well. Lyndon is going to need a long rest. Last 2 rounds will be amongst some of the toughest he's went through his whole career. I tell you what though, the second half of the fight was just as good as the domestic light heavyweight dust down between Callum Smith and Joshua Boatsi. And this fight set the tone for the main event.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one
Can do it better.
People talking about Senior is trying to take the spotlight. Senior takes the spotlight anyway. You cannot stop Senior from taking the spotlight. You cannot. Even if he tried to stay quiet, he's going to yam up the spotlight. It's just who he is. Yes, Tom, he's a thespian. You know what I mean? He will eat all the celebrity energy out of the room and take it for himself. That's just who he is.
Conor Benn was more disappointed with the result than I expected post-fight. And Eubank was ecstatic. Conor Benn knows he underperformed. Showed a great chin, but that's something he's born with. DNA from, I was going to say his dad, but his dad didn't have a fabulous chin. His dad had extreme heart. So he could get out from knockdowns and he could get out from being tagged. And the real dangerous Nigel Benn was the Nigel Benn who's just been hurt. That was dangerous. But his dad pointed out that Conor spent a lot of time on the ropes. I agree with that. They told Conor not to step out of range too far because when he's got to return fire, he's too far out of range. Somebody pointed out, and I said it on my stream, the body attack that Conor needed wasn't there. Headhunted a little too much. His old man also said he was winging his punches in and not delivering them with the precision we're accustomed to seeing from Conor. Pressure may have got to Conor a little. Chris fell to the floor in elation. He put a lot of pressure on himself with his insistence that if he loses, he has to retire. And to put it bluntly, he's past his prime. And to put it bluntly, the sum total of his efforts as a 14-year-old pro is 3 IBO World Championships, one of which George Groves was so unimpressed with in the WBSS final, he immediately threw it out of his belt collection after defeating Eubank Jr. Eubank was there for the taking because he took this fight against his dad's wishes, and anyone complaining about the rehydration clauses, Eddie Hearn revealed the rehydration clause has been written into the contract for a rematch, and no one has forced Ben Shalom or Eubank Jr. to do that. Jr. is 35. Have we now seen the best of Chris Eubank Jr.? When the first fight collapsed, Jr. had the option to go on and fight for world titles. He instead got chinned by Beefy Smith, avenged the loss, and they fought an absolute no-hoper on Riyadh season. Conor Benn has only had 2 fights since he popped for clomiphene. We know he's had legal issues and due process before getting his British license back. We know why he's only had 3 fights since he got taken out the system in 2022. But does Junior have a legit excuse for his lack of ambition? The Johnny Beck fight was there. Johnny Beck said it looks like Eubank Jr. is running from the fight. There was another receipt there, which I'm not going to quote because I don't have it, that he didn't want the fight and apparently told the WBO he didn't want the fight. And this is for 2 belts against Johnny Beck. He outpriced himself for a potential fight with Canelo, according to Eddie Reynoso. Eubank has lost a lot of crispness to his work. He looked pretty slow at the start. Ben was weaving his left hand easy and then lost his way. Eubank resorted to rough tactics, which Ben should have been prepared for. He started pushing Conor when he couldn't land any accurate punches. Pushed Conor to the floor and then wrestled Conor to the floor and took himself to the canvas as well. There was a lot of rabbit punching, which Chris was warned for. But you got to do what you got to do in boxing. Better fighters than Eubank have had to do similar things to get back into fights they wasn't in control of. It's not a sport for the faint-hearted. Junior did what he had to do. A lot of swing rounds. Conor didn't dominate no rounds. Eubank did better with the jab when Conor started to slow down. It wasn't spectacular from Eubank, but he did what he had to do. Conor, for this fight, showed an iron chin, and that fights took a lot off Conor's biological boxing age. Conor won the first 2. I thought the fight was even after 6. 3 rounds to go is where Eubank shaded it. Everybody was talking about it was a fight of the year candidate post-fight. That was no consolation for Conor. He really wanted to win. Eubank, he was elated at first, fell to his knees in celebration, but he was rushed to hospital.
Listen, he didn't go to hospital for a cut. He went to hospital because he's dehydrated, and it killed him to make the weight. That's the facts of life.
But when reality set in, he looked a little deflated that he couldn't really put a dent in Conor, and Conor kept coming back at him. It was life and death, toe to toe. The head clash, he had a bad cut around the right eye. His face was visibly swollen. He took punishment. Conor was bruised up around the eyes a little, but that was it. But he took a lot of punishment, Conor. Eddie himself, he was disappointed with the result, but he was more disappointed that he didn't get the result that would have justified Conor being put in such a fight. A lot of fans and media didn't think should have happened. They thought it was a money grab. Nepotism, exploiting their father's fame, the weights are not even, etc., etc. Where I see it different from a lot of people, they seem to think that Eubank was hard done by when Eubank was able to sit down and negotiate his contract with Riyadh Season, and he should have came away from the negotiating table with no regrets, not blaming Eggy Conor and Eggy Hearn for everything. Eubank is in a privileged position as a boxer, not in a disadvantaged position. And you have to look no further than who's helping him negotiate these situations. Who's his promoter? Ben Shalom. They signed up for 2 fights with the rehydration clause. 2. And people are going to hear this news and they're still going to blame Eddie Hearn, which is funny to me. Conor had welterweight speed to bring to the table. He had, I don't have the stress, not just on the body, but on the mental of weight making for the fight. He came in at 156. Eubank probably came in the ring 176, 177, and he's just a bigger guy. Chris did win the fight because Chris did what was necessary to win the fight. His experience came up for him. I'd like to see the punch stats. I'm sure Chris threw a lot more punches. Conor always came back with hard counters, left hooks, right hands over the top. Very entertaining fight though. Narrow margins in it at the end, but the right man was given the decision. Conor may struggle getting tight decisions in the UK because of his past indiscretions that may not be too favourable to Conor if his fights get to the scorecards. I'm not saying that happened here, he lost the fight, but the margins were a little too wide. Eubank looked a little embarrassed when he got staggered in the second from that Conor Benn left hook. The early rounds were supposed to be the building blocks for Conor to go on and win with an outstanding performance, letting Eubank know that it's a young man's game, but it wasn't to be for Conor. That left uppercut was important for Chris to get him back in the fight, wasn't it? That was an important weapon. Conor's not a young kid either. He's 28. This is a fight he needed to win. And at the moment, he's on the route of going the same route as Chris. A lot of headlines, a lot of press time because of who his dad is. But the resume or resumes on both Chris Jr. and Conor's are a little thin in terms of accomplishments and live opponents they fought in their prime and beat. Chris doesn't take the same shot that he once took and is not as strong as he used to be. Conor was roughing up Chris, putting that right forearm in Chris's face against the ropes. Chris seemed incapable of pushing him off on the few occasions this happened. Yeah, them poker dins have took a lot away from that young man. The time that he spent away from his dad and the company he's been hanging with, whatever he's doing in his downtime, have robbed Chris of what could have made him special as a fighter. If Chris had believed in the process and perhaps stayed with what his dad's teachings were, even at the late phase of his career, he could have won legit titles and perhaps still could. Unless Conor is one of the hardest hitting welters to fight at 160. What happens when the bigger punchers at 160 crack Eubank on the chin right now. I mean, that kid Aaron McKenna, how would Eubank do against him? McKenna would be up for that one, and Chris would need a monumental performance to break Aaron's ambition and ability, which I never knew Aaron had. He looked really good in there. The size on Chris, got the aggression, he's faster. Eddie Hearn, yeah, he was very disappointed because now a lot of people are pointing fingers at him. I mean, Eubank, Senior.
The credit I'm going to give to Conor. I told you he was a superior fighter, but he shouldn't be fighting at 160 or 156. He's a 147 fighter. He's been destroyed by the people who are handling him, and they have to be brought to account. Do your job. Do your job. Do your job.
Conor's not a 160-pound fighter, and it looks like Eddie is not going to revisit that rematch because Conor, he did take a beating against a bigger man, and if he puts him in another fight with a bigger man and he accumulates more punishment, no world titles, just a damaged fighter, the narrative will be you sold the kid out to fill out White Hart Lane, do some pay-per-view numbers and make some money. But what about his career? What about his health? But I wouldn't accuse Eddie of jeopardizing Conor's health, because the truth is, if he was to fight Boots at his so-called natural 147, I believe Boots beats him up way worse than what Eubank was able to. It's just at a different weight class. Boots probably not that much smaller than Eubank on fight night. Boots certainly couldn't make welterweight if they were still weighing in on the same day as the fight. Facts are, if you're fighting at the elite levels, championship level, and you're not a special talent, you're catching hands, rehydration clauses or not, outweighed or not, outsized or not. The good big un beats a small one can apply to the greats, but the greats often can make short work of height differentials, size differentials. Why? Because they're great. Conor does have the chance in theory to accomplish a world title like Chris never did, because he's not trainer hopping, he's not hopping camp to camp, and he's got youth on his side. And that's how he claws back, fighting pride for the Benns. 2 wins for the Eubanks, 1 draw for the Benns. But look, Ben Shalom and Eddie, they got their big money spinning event. They won't be producing too much more events like this, selling out stadiums with catchweight fights with no world title on the line. They both know they got a touch on that one. You know what I mean? Junior himself, he got his wish. His dad was in the arena. I don't know what that says about this reconciliation. Will Senior have a more permanent position again in Junior's career? Or was it just for this event? I mean, for all the people who were screaming at Eubank, you need to be there at your son's side. If his son decides to fight at 160, even without a rehydration clause, I believe he'll get knocked out. Not against the Zerametas, but against any bona fide world-class 160. He gets beaten or knocked out. And his dad doesn't want him to fight there. I'm sure that hasn't changed. What, Eubank Senior changed his position? He wants his son to fight at 160? I doubt it very much. Has Conor forfeited his world title opportunities at 147? He should be able to get back down to 147. He only came in at 156. But we have to see. I'm sure he's putting a lot of muscle to make this fight. He hasn't fought a 147 since 2022. That's 3 years ago. You know, we're talking about world titles for Conor. He hasn't even won a British or European. And right now, that Harlem Eubank fight, I don't care what Matchroom or Conor Benn says, you're not too big for a Harlem Eubank fight. That's a big fight. Harlem's undefeated. He's coming into a bit of form. He looked pretty good against Tyrone McKenna last time out. And Chris Senior's been talking it up. And Conor's just lost. These are fights that Conor should be looking at. He shouldn't just be looking at the Mario Barrios fight. And it looks like Barrios is fighting Pacquiao. Conor needs a significant fight in the meantime. There were a lot of stages last year I was saying they need to move on, close the chapter on Conor, Chris Jr. But they stayed with it. Eventually they made the event. And I supported that decision too. And I guess the fight justifies their decision, despite the protestations from those who didn't want this fight. Anthony Joshua was saying watching this fight makes him proud to be British. It was a huge event. Is this the end of the Ben and Eubank chapter? It started in 1990. Maybe there's a rematch for Junior. Maybe we do get Conor versus Harlem Eubank. The highlights of the evening: Aaron McKenna, perhaps the performance of the night. The Anthony Yarde, Lyndon Arthur fight, the second half of that contest. Really good stuff. Really good stuff. And the main event was really good for a lot of people who were saying this was just a money grab, nepotism. You've heard it all before. Even they'd have to say they were proven wrong. We saw a genuine 50-50 fight. 50-50 because of where they are at this stage of their respective careers. And it was great entertainment. Conor's defiant, you're going to have to knock me out to get my respect type of attitude. Perhaps something that Tony Sims wouldn't have been comfortable with, but for the paying customers, all you got to do is look on social media and they're still talking about this event and this fight.
Running round, shaking ass, slapping hands. That shit ain't happenstance. I just happen to notice it. Happen to understand what exactly the motive is. It take a lot of knowledge to devour our nemesis. If you don't understand all the power of images, you probably think it's innocent and nothing is planned out. You probably think the demand for consciousness ran out. The song that you used to hate now is your favorite. Cause what you surround yourself with is contagious. The way they carry themselves on TV amazes. You can see an artist as he go through them stages. I just refuse to embrace it. The cells always jump when they be catching them cases. Why they promote being wasted? That lifestyle the kids wanna taste it. Who I'm talking to? Never let them see you sweat, better yet, never let them see you lose your respect for a check. What you expect? He grew up in the checks, it ain't that bad. He ain't selling drugs or shooting no tech. That's my point, he ain't hustling or hoisting no gun. Why promote that lifestyle just to poison the young? I don't get it, and as long as I spit it, I'll be a critic against it. It's like a war wage against the defenseless, the senseless. Killers that be filling our headlines. They don't never talk about the state in the fair time. Say what they wanna hear, they make you a headline. 3 album deal, but you racing the deadline. And they reject all your real shit, but they writing checks, so it's something you deal with. Now you on the stage with some tights and some high heels, talking about how you keep it real. For real? Get up on TV, steady clowning for fame. Watered down bullshit, almost drowning the game. If you want me, most likely look around in the lane. Murder lane, and I'm the one that really founded the name. Nowadays it's 50 cats all sounding the same. Talking about the same shit, it's astoundingly lame. You don't like it, you a hater, and I'm bound to be blamed. But do a thorough investigation and I'm found to be flame. It's the same in almost every town that we name. These bullshit messages, they try to pound in the brain. So I gotta get some substance, hold it down for the gang. You know the ones who never made it, took a round to the brain. Or the ones who got knocked bodies surrounded in chains. Wish for y'all until the day you feel it bound on a train. I'ma hold it down, J Pound in the game, and I'ma never fuck around with the lane. I promise.